Good afternoon, welcome to VANIK-IAS. We'll discuss current affair of 30 June. First, we'll discuss objective questions. How many of the following countries is are the part of Horn of Africa? Right. Horn of Africa. You should see the map. Right. It is like North Africa is like this. Right. This is Horn of Africa. Here is your Somalia. These are region is your Somalia region. Right. And this is your Gulf of Aden. Gulf of Aden. And in upper this is your Yemen. It is Yemen. This is Gulf of Aden. This is Yemen. And so Somalia is there. And Ethiopia, this region is completely Ethiopia. It's a very big region. This is completely Ethiopia. Right. And Djibouti is just after Somalia. Here it is your Djibouti. And next is Eritrea, right? After Djibouti there is Eritrea, like this. Eritrea. So this is Somalia. These regions are Somalia region. This is Ethiopia. This is your Djibouti, and this is Eritrea. This region is called as Horn of Africa. So all the four countries are right. Next. Consider the following statements regarding gig economy. Gig economy means presently, for example, there is Swiggy, there is Zomato, there is part-time workers, right? They are part-time workers. There is no social security for them, and somebody is delivery agents especially. They are gig economy, part-time jobs. It's a free market system in which temporary positions are common. Free market system, temporary positions are common, and organization contract with the independent workers for short-term engagement. Short-term engagement, right? Somebody is delivering food for 2 hours or 4 hours. Short-term engagement. Platform workers are those whose work is based on online software application or digital platforms, while non-platform gig workers are generally casual wage workers working part-time or full-time. Right? They do not enjoy any social security schemes. So these which of the following correct are code regarding gig economy? Both are correct. Right. Next. Partnership for global infrastructure and investment. Which of the following country has started is seen in news is related to which of the following organization? Right. Partnership for global infrastructure and investment. It is an initiative started in 2021 by G7 Summit in Britain. G7 Summit in Britain 2021. This partnership for global or PEG II is started by G7, right? And at that time it has started Build Back Better initiative. Build Back Better initiative. Right. What is the purpose? Purpose is that it is a global investment partnership that aim to help developing countries. There is around $600 billion will be invested. $600 billion would be invested in the infrastructure for the developing countries, right? Especially to improve after the post-pandemic economy. So after in 2021 and by G7. So A is the answer. Then consider the following countries: United States, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, United Kingdom. How many countries are the initiative called as partners in Blue Pacific? Our countries are part of the that is partners in Blue Pacific. So see all the countries. US is part. US it is in Australia is also in Pacific. New Zealand, Japan, and United Kingdom. So all the five countries are are a part of initiative partners in Blue Pacific, right? Under Article 179 of the Constitution, Speaker can be removed by a resolution of the Assembly passed by a majority of the then members of the Assembly, and the process does not require any priorities. No, this is wrong. This is wrong, right? It require a prior notice of 14 days, right? He require a prior notice 14 days, and he is removed by a resolution passed by majority of all the members of Lok Sabha. Majority of all the members of the Lok Sabha. So, so it's given by in case of Lok Sabha, it is he has given a time is given 14 days, right? Notice period of 14 days. So only speaker cannot make any decision under the 10th schedule until the question of his removal is settled. Yes, yes, two is also right. Under the if the question regarding removal is not settled, he cannot make any decisions. Make any decisions means, for example, speaker has power regarding decision regarding defection. Ultimate power regarding defection lies with the speaker, or regarding money bill. What is a money bill or not, that will be specified by the speaker, right? So that the first decisions cannot be taken, or constituent. What are the powers of speakers to constitute various committees, various standing committee or ad hoc committee, right? Who will be a member of which committee? So all these things are based on the decision of the speaker. So until there is no final decision is taken, speaker cannot make any decisions under 10th schedule. The term hermit recently seen in news relate to which of the following? Hermit. Hermit is a spyware, right? Like our Pegasus spyware, Hermit is a spyware. Spyware for Android and iPhone, right? It is in Italy and Kazakhstan. In Italy and Kazakhstan, this Hermit is a it is targeted. It is a spyware like our Pegasus of NSO group. It is a spyware, right? And spyware, the function of a spyware is that once it is installed in your mobile, you will not know when it is installed. It will be automatically installed, and then after getting the getting installed, it will give all the information to the person who has installed in your mobile, your all call records, your all messages, everything. And even they can send messages from your mobile to other mobiles, right? The person who was controlling it from outside, the outsider agent, they can send your message from your mobile to another person. So proofs can be manufactured as well. If you want to prosecute a particular person, in case of, for example, in case of terrorism, suppose you want to prosecute a particular person, you don't have any evidence, then you can send a message also by applying Pegasus or Similar function lies with the Hermit software. It is seen in Italy and Kazakhstan. Consider the following statements with regard to Gulabi Minakari art. Regards to Gulabari Minakari art, recently seen the Gulabi Minakari is a GI tagged art from Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh. GI tagged art from Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh. Gulabi Minakari art, and it is a age-old art from decorating metal with colored enamel. Metal with colored enamel. So that is GI tag art of Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh. Both the statements are right. Gulabi Minakari art. Okay, next. National Statistics Day is celebrated on which of the following? 29 June is celebrated National Statistics Day. West Seti Dam is recently seen in the news. Which of the following country? West Seti Dam. This West Seti hydropower project. This is it is with Nepal, right? There is a West Seti hydropower project from which China has withdrawn and India will take that project. So that is in Nepal, right? In the Seti River. It is in the Seti River of Nepal. Seti River of Nepal. India has taken over it, right? From China. Earlier, China has taken the responsibility of building this West Seti hydropower project, which is a hydropower project around 750 megawatt. So now India has taken it. So D is the answer. West Seti Dam, that is in Nepal, in Seti River. Okay, next. Consider the following statements about United Nations Human Rights Council. There is no permanent members of there are no permanent members in the United Nations Human Rights Council. No member can hold membership of United Nations Human Rights Council for more than 2 consecutive terms. Yes, more than 2 consecutive terms, no member can hold membership. So both the statements are correct here regarding United Nations Human Rights Council, which is based upon UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Okay. Next, we'll see some important facts for prelim. First is Partnership for Global Infrastructure Investment (PGII). Right? We discussed a question regarding PGII. We have already said that it is by G7. Right? U.S. President Joe Biden, along with G7 allies, unveiled the ambitious Partnership of Global Infrastructure and Investment. So Joe Biden has started it, announcing the collective mobilization of 600 billion by 2027 to deliver game-changing and transparent infrastructure project to developing and middle-income countries. Right? So they will deliver 600 billion, $600 billion for infrastructure project, especially in the middle income or developing countries. The PGIA has been seen in the G7's counter to China's multi-trillion dollar Belt and Road Initiative to build connectivity infrastructure and road trade projects in Asia, Europe, Africa, and Asia. So it is as important as OBOR, right? China Belt and Road Initiative, it is developing a huge amount, it is developing a large network of mode of transportation to create its hegemony, right? To create to get the status of global power. China is developing it, so it is one type of counter by the G7 allies for development of infrastructure and investment, so that trade and commerce can also be increased, and people though infrastructure they will not be only dependent on OBOR. So 600 billion will be spent by 2027. What is PGIA? The West has been skeptical of the BRI since it launched in 2013. Right, it was considered to be part of China's larger strategy to increase geopolitical influence in Asia and other developing countries. The US, along with G7 partners in the UK, Japan, France, Canada, Germany, Italy, and European Union, had in 2021 announced the launch of the Build Back Better, right? It has also announced the launch of Build Back Better World (B3W), with the aim narrowing the 40 trillion infrastructure gap in the developing world. The PGIA is therefore a relaunch of Mr. Biden's B3W plan, right? It is a relaunch of Build Back Better World, that is especially developing. So it will be especially develop infrastructure in developing countries. USA described PGIA as a value-driven, high-impact and transparent infrastructure partnership to meet the enormous infrastructure needs of the low and middle-income countries to support the United States and its allies' economic and national security interest. So, in the economic interest and national security interest of United States and its allies, that will be translated into development of infrastructure. So that will be value driven and high impact and transparent infrastructure partnership, right? That will give impetus to trade and security as well. Okay, the G7 members aim to collectively mobilize 600 billion by 2027. Aim to collectively mobilize $200 billion by 2027 in sustainable and quality infrastructure projects in developing countries, including India, strengthening global supply chains. That will also work in India to strengthen global supply chain, and one of the strategic aim is to counter China. Mr. Biden announced the country's pledge to channel $200 billion grant, in grants, public financing, and private capital over the next 5 years for the PGIA. Right, next 5 years, 200 billion grants and public financing and private capital. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen declared Europe's pledge, mobilizing 300 billion euros for the partnership over the same period. Right, Europe will raise 300 billion euros, and by Mr. Biden has also pledged to channel 200 billion dollars. So, and other European countries and Western countries combinedly, they will the G7 economies, they will take steps regarding development of infrastructure in developing countries, especially to counter China. Right? See, the hegemony is USA is declining in the world sphere. It has spreaded a lot, and there is rise of China, and the world power is getting shifted to Asia rather than the West. So, to reclaim its hyper status or reclaim its hegemony, that is called as US hegemony. mm, Now, though, its power is getting shifted to Indo-Pacific, especially Asian centric, that is called as Asian century. Especially Asian century means the rise of India, the rise of China, and especially the rise of BRICS developing countries, the rise of such type of developing countries, that their sizes, their economic size is very huge, and various infrastructure projects, for example, OBOR and also INSTC, also BBIN corridor, in regional development is also developing. The global institutions like World Bank and IMF and WTO are also losing their relevance because China has built AI, there is AIBB, we have ADB, right? Asian Development Bank and AIBB, then various organizations like SCO and, for example, ASEAN. All these regional organizations, they have a huge power, right? They are cooperating and they are being developing. They are combinedly even working for each other's development. So the world, there is multilateralism. We can say that the world is a multilateral world. Getting multilateralism is the prevailing world order. We cannot say that it is unilateral world order or unipolar world order. Especially unipolar means power lies in one country. The world is not completely multipolar. We cannot say it is, still it is unipolar because US has a huge amount of power, and we can say the decline of US from various recent occurrences like US withdrawal from Afghanistan, sudden withdrawal from Afghanistan, and ultimately the Taliban came to power. It is failure in also providing security to the Ukraine, right? The NATO forces, they are NATO forces are unable to provide security to Ukraine. So in various fields, it is seen that USA is not the global power like it was earlier. Its hegemony is declining, and China and Asian countries, they have various regional organizations are standing. So multilateralism is prevailing in the world, and now USA is more focusing on Indo-Pacific area, right? Indo-Pacific is the global strategic area as compared to any other strategic areas of the world, right? So it is not Western centric anymore. It is becoming Asian centric. That is all I want to tell you. Okay. So first, G7 is making the tackle the climate crisis, right? The Glasgow summit and the developed countries has not contributed significant any significant. Since various climate crises, there is since your in 2005 summit, in 2000 climate summit, that is called as Kyoto Protocol. Yes, in Kyoto Protocol, it was said that common but differentiated responsibilities, right? Especially it has given the responsibility more to the developed countries. Developed countries because they have contributed more to the problem, right? They are the industrialized countries, so they must pay the more. But since then, the issues of climate crisis has not been solved, especially the financing and the technological transfer. So, and climate crisis, the issues are increasing. Recently, we've seen frequently natural hazards in various countries of the world, and it is increasing. So, we have also Glasgow summit. Very few countries, even developing countries like India, is the only country who has achieved the target. In such a situation, G7 is also aims to tackle the climate crisis and become more serious and regarding providing technology or financing to counter it, especially in the developing country. Because a developing country cannot invest a huge amount of money in case in environment crisis, right? To climate because they are suffering from poverty, malnutrition, and various infrastructure and infrastructural issues. Second, the projects will focus on bolstering digital transformation, communication technology, ICT networks, facilitating technology such as 5G and 6G internet connectivity and cyber connectivity, right? 5G and internet connectivity and cyber security, because this 5G and 6G they will also boost our service sector and our also our manufacturing sector and any other sector of the economy. And India is going to have 5G technology by 2023 March. This is what the government is targeting, right? Third, the projects aim to have gender equality and equity. Lastly, to build upgrade global health infrastructure. They have, yes, gender equality and to build upgrade the global health infrastructure, because the world has already suffered a huge amount of setback in case of COVID-19 pandemic, and even in the developed countries, huge number of people died, and the existing health infrastructure was not sufficient according to the demand of the crisis, right? That's why it's urgently need to increase the to upgrade the global infrastructure. Okay. US International Development Finance Corporation (DFC) along with G7 nations and EU disbursing $3.3 million technical assistance grant to build vaccine facility in Senegal, having potentially early capacity manufacturing of million doses of COVID-19 and other countries. Million doses of COVID-19 in other countries. So they are developing 3.3 million technical assistance regarding COVID vaccines. European Commission's Global Gateway Initiative also undertaking projects in supporting PGI such as mRNA vaccine, right? European Commission is also supporting mRNA vaccine. Plants in Latin America, fiber optic cable linking Europe to Latin America, among others. In India, US DFC will invest up to 30 million in Omnivore Agritech and Climate Sustainability Fund. Impact venture capital that invest in entrepreneurs building future of agriculture, food system, climate and rural economy in India. So 30 million will be invested by Omnivore Agritech, right? They will invest in building future agriculture systems, climate and rural economy. How does it compare to BRI? The Belt and Road Initiative was started to revive connectivity, trade and infrastructure among China's ancient Silk Road. China has announced two-pronged approach in building Silk Road economic belt on land and a maritime 21st century Silk Road. Right, both land and maritime. Right, it is developing infrastructure. It has announced. The project aimed to strengthen connectivity in South Asia, but later expanded to South and Central Asia, Africa, Europe, Latin America. With Mr. G says that it will break the bottleneck in Asian connectivity. So Asia will be connected to Central Asia, Africa, Europe, and Latin America. So that will be a huge boost to our trade of Asia. The G7 meanwhile specifically touted the uh, PGIA as value-based plan to help underfunded low and middle income countries to meet their infrastructure needs. So to counter the hegemony of China in the regional hegemony, because China is emerging as a regional hegemony, it is investing huge amount of money in every countries. For example, in Sri Lanka, or giving so many loans in the Asian countries. It is investing huge amount of money, right? It has a huge foreign exchange because it is a manufacturing base. It has 11% share in the world exports. So PGIA is a led focus on climate action and clean energy, while China has built large coal-fired plants under BRI, along with solar, hydro, and wind energy projects. While the G7 has pledged 600 billion by 2027, China's overall funding for BRI by that time could reach 1.2 to 1.3 trillion dollars. Actual funding being higher. So, China's overall funding for BRI is much more as compared to the G7 funding of 600 billion by 2027. Under PGI, the large private capital will be mobilized, while China's BRI is majorly state funded. It's state funded. That means China will majorly state will funded. It will be mobilized from large private capital will be mobilized, while China's BRI is majorly state funded. So we can say that state funded means there one type of there is sure short funding, because when a particular state join GCBRI, they will fund a huge amount of money, right? But in case of private capital, we cannot ensure that this much amount of money will be collected, and that is a difficult task. BRI has also launched at a time when China is in local construction of farms, where sort of projects in developed Chinese provinces, right? So construction program, it is a large sector. I mean, it is opportunity for construction projects in the whole in Asia and other countries. So Chinese construction firms will get the opportunity. Studies have shown 89% of the contractors participating in VRE projects are Chinese, right? 89% of the contractors participating in VRE projects are Chinese. So it is highly Chinese dominated. According to engineering news records of 2019 data, 7 out of world's 10 biggest construction contractors are based on foreign revenue are Chinese, right? So around 70%, around 70% of the world's biggest construction are based on Chinese. So they will get a huge project, and ultimately it will benefit the China in every manner, because right, other state will fund, but ultimately the money will go to China. Large number of Chinese workers are employed in BRI projects. For instance, one point, for instance, 1.8 lakh were working in Africa by late 2020, no, 2019. The G7 leaders emphasized transparency as a cornerstone PGIA projects. The BRI has faced criticism for making countries sign confidential tenders for extending massive loans, leaving countries indebted to China. We see the example of Sri Lanka, right? Massive loan debt trap policy, what we call as debt trap policy. Many countries are suffering from the debt trap policy by the China. For instance, after BRI flagship 62 billion China-Pakistan economic corridor, Pakistan owes Beijing a large proportion of its foreign debt. Right? After the China-Pakistan economic corridor for 62 billion, right, China-Pakistan economic corridor, now Pakistan, the majority of Pakistan debt is China. So Pakistan may also face the same crisis like China. China builds BRI projects by extending large low interest loan to countries that have usually be paid over 10 years. They have been cases of debt-saddled countries failing to repay on time. Sri Lanka, for instance, had to cede its key Hambantota port in 99-year lease. In Hambantota port is a 99-year lease to China. When you cannot pay, you'll lend your land to China. PGI aims to build projects through grants and investments, right? So grants and investments, it aims to build projects. PGI project has already been announced in India, but India has opted out of China's BRI, being wary of Beijing's aim to increase its influence in the Indian Ocean region by roping Pakistan as a major BRI recipient, right? So why India is coming out of India? Already announced in India, but India has opted out of BRI. Why BRI? Because they are violating our territorial integrity. Because the China-Pakistan economic corridor, which is a part of Belt and Road Initiatives, um, Belt and Road Initiative that is passing through our Gilgit-Baltistan, which is a disputed area between India and Pakistan. So, right, it is saying that a permanent member of UNSC is violating the territorial integrity of another country, right? Which is a major violation of international law. Okay, next. Niti Aayog report on India's gig economy. Government think tank Niti Aayog, it is a advisory body proposed fiscal incentives like tax breaks, startups, grants, companies with about one third of their workforce as women and people with disabilities. This is an attempt to increase the participation of women in the gig economy. Participation of women in the gig economy, right? That is part-time economy, part-time work, right? A report titled India's booming gig platform economy, the organization also recommended extending social security measures such as income support, paid sick leaves, insurance and pension plans to people working for the platform like Swiggy, Zomato, Ola and Uber. So they are also ensuring some insurances. Gig workers are typically hired by companies on contractual basis and are not considered as employees. They do not receive some of the benefits that that an on-roll staff does. Right? They do not receive some of the benefits that an on-roll staff does. So basically, they are devoid of any social security, such type of social security schemes. What were some of the Niti Aayog's observation? The organization is report noted that female labor force participation in India has remained low, oscillating between 16% to 23% in last few years. Right. So female labor force participation it is between 16% to 23%, which is very low. Right. There we need to establish gender equity. That means labor force participation of women in case of workers need to be increased to boost the economy. Similarly, persons with disabilities who make up for 2.11 to 10% of India's population have a labor force participation rate of 36%. Right, labor force participation of 36%. That means if 100 people are in disabled, out of them 36% are working. Right. So these are the observations of Niti Aayog. They can be used in case of gig economy. Right, working for such type of organizations like Ola or Uber, or suppose for example, okay, structural barriers like access to education or lack of skilling have hindered participation in this of the two demographic groups in the country's labor force. Right, structural access to education, right, and skills. There is gender gap. There is a huge gender gap so far as skills is concerned. Right. Suppose we see very few women drivers. Based on a survey conducted across urban centers of India, women are more likely to take platform jobs after their education and marriage. More likely to take platform jobs. Right? They are interested, but fact is that there is no opportunity or there is no scaling for them. What are Niti Aayog's recommendation on gig economy? According to Niti Aayog, fiscal incentives such as tax breaks or tax-free startup grants may be provided for business that provide lively opportunities. These women constitute a substantial portion, 30% of their workers. Likewise, a platform with high accessibility or high degree of participation, PWD, too may be rewarded with fiscal incentives. So they may be given persons with disabilities. They may be rewarded with fiscal incentives if they are joining any skilling program or anything. Apart from incentivizing platforms that focus on recruiting women workers, the report recommended that businesses have higher share of women managers and supervisors in the organization to ensure that communication to workers does not perpetuate gender stereotypes. Communication to workers does not perpetuate gender stereotypes. Businesses have higher share of women managers and supervisors in the organization to ensure the communication to workers does not perpetuate the gender stereotypes. Okay, next. Report also confirmed firms adopt policies after old age retirement plans benefits and other insurance cover for contingencies such as injury arising from the work may lead to loss of employment and income. Right. That offer old age and retirement plans and benefits. Right. Firms adopt policies that offer older retirement plans and benefits and other insurance cover for contingencies such as injury arising from work that may lead to loss of employment. Such plans and policies may be uniquely designed by a firm in a partnership with insurance companies, could be designed and offered in collaboration with the government, and which is under Code of Social Security 2020. Social Security cover out of corpus fund can also be help gig workers in case of contingency. So, like this such type of social sector scheme, especially such type social sector schemes like uh, age old retirement and retirement plan or benefits. Retirement plan and benefits and other insurance cover for contingencies such as injury arising from work that may lead to loss of employment and income. Such plans and policies may be uniquely designed by a firm in partnership with insurance companies. The Niti Aayog's report also said that social security benefits be extended to workers in partnership mode. In partnership mode, right? So this we can develop such type of as gig workers do not enjoy any social security. So we may start some unique schemes like, for example, a life cover or a accidental insurance, small accidental insurance that can be started. It also suggesting offering paid sick leave to workers apart from insurance cover, right? Paid sick leave, right? That should be given. These are social security schemes, right? So during the time of British period, such type of there was no schemes for those people, right? The difference between today and what was happening during the British Practice Act is that there was no holidays, there was no sick leaves, there was nothing. So today, the employees and the workers are given various type of social securities. So that these gig workers, they are informal workers. They many times they are termed as informal workers because there is no social security, and that can be given by partnership with the insurance companies. There should be special insurance for them. As such, report said businesses should consider providing income support to workers as it would be critical step in providing assuring minimum earnings social security to income from income loss in the wake of uncertainty. Right? In the wake of uncertainty means if a particular person is suffering from a particular disease, then obviously particular disease, then mm, he will get some certain amount of money or the medical expenses, all these things that need to be provided. How the workforce is engaged in economy? India estimates more than 7.5 million workers, right? So around 75 lakhs workers engaged in the economy in 2020 to 21. This would grow to 23 million workers in the next 8 years, making up a 4.1% of total livelihood in India. So it is providing a new type of sector. It is a new type of employment opportunities, which do not require any huge amount of skill, but it is easily available, right? Rather than the traditional jobs. Okay. According to the report, at present, around 47% of gig workers in medium skilled jobs. About 20% was higher high skilled and 31% are low skilled jobs. The gig workers can be broadly classified into platform, non-platform workers. Platform workers are those whose work is based on online software applications or digital platforms. While non-platform workers give work as casual workers working part-time or full-time. Right? Gig workers means the informal workers. Those are working as part-time, full-time, as casual workers. They are also called as gig workers. So, what are the recommendations of NITI in this regard? While platform companies have created avenues of employment, it has been made by low wages and unequal gender participation. Low wages, unequal gender participation means the for the same work, if a man is paid 300 rupees, a woman will be paid what 200 rupees or 250 rupees. It is still equivalent in the how in the rural areas, right? A male labor has more salary than the women labor, and lack of possibility for upward mobility. Lack of possibility for upward mobility means there should be opportunity to move upward. There should be some opportunity to move upward. Any skilling, if you want, if anybody want to, there should be opportunity to move upward within an organization. This has triggered protests from workers at companies like Swiggy, Zomato, Ola, Uber, right? It has started protests, right? Urban company now among others. Gig workers are typically hired by companies for a contractual basis, not considered their employees. They are hired for contractual basis, right? If you give 15 delivery today, you will get for 50 rupees or something like that. This means that they often do not receive benefits like paid sick or casual leaves because they're contractual workers. It's an informal sector. In case of informal sector, such type of leaves are not allowed. If you are working for 10 hours, you will take the price of 10 hours only. Right. Partnership in Blue Pacific (PBP). Amid China's aggressive push for increase the Indo-Pacific sphere of influence, the US and its allies Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and United Kingdom have launched new initiative called as Partnership in Blue Pacific for effective and efficient cooperation with the region's small island nations. Right, region small island nations cooperation with that is partnership in the Blue Pacific. Why it is started by New Zealand, Australia, Japan, and United Kingdom. Why it is started? Because for effective and efficient cooperation with the island nations. The geostrategic competition in the region has intensified of late after China made projected scope for its growing footprint clear by pushing sweeping common cooperation agreement with 10 Pacific nations. Common cooperation agreement with 10 Pacific nations. Right? China has developed a geostrategic relationship with Solomon Island as well. So that's why uh, these five countries they have developed partners in Blue Pacific, that is developing relationship with small island nations because their position are very strategic. They work like a ship in the middle of the sea. So, what are the partners in Blue Pacific Initiative? The PVP has five nation informal mechanism to support Pacific Islands to boost diplomatic economic ties in the region. Announced recently, it aims to enhance prosperity, resilience, and security in the Pacific through closer cooperation. It simply means that through PVP, these countries together and individually will direct more resources here to counter China's aggressive outreach. Right. So these countries will direct more resources because what China does especially it invest a huge amount of money in a particular country and make it its allies. But now this PVP Platforms in Blue Pacific Initiative they will also invest and develop relationship with economic ties with the small island nations. Initiative members have also declared that they will elevate Pacific regionalism for stronger ties with Pacific Islands Forum. So they will develop the Pacific regionalism, developing the regionalism in Pacific area. Okay. According to the five nations, these forums open to cooperating with additional partners and will be led by and guided by Pacific Islands. It will lead and guided by Pacific Islands. The areas of PVP aims to enhance cooperation include climate crisis, connectivity, transportation, maritime security, protection, health, prosperity, and education. So, especially in all the relevance relevant dimensions, they will cooperate with each other. How China is trying to transform its ties with Pacific. China has signed security pact with Solomon Islands in April 2022. Yes, the deal flagged serious concerns about Chinese military getting a base in the southern Pacific. It is getting military base in the southern Pacific, close to U.S. island territory of Guam Island and right next to Australia and New Zealand. So China has developing a has Chinese military getting a base in the southern Pacific, right? See, such type of base are very important. Once upon a time, just there was a military base of there was, for example, Fidel Castro in Cuba. It has started. It has put some missiles in Cuba, very nearer to USA, right? You may see near Gulf of Mexico. Mexico, the Cuba country is very small, and that creates a sense of insecurity in the whole United States of America because there are some missile structures, and that is finally that the issue developed during the Cold War time. That is called as Cuban Missile Crisis. So similarly, if a particular if there is an area nearer to your geographical territory that may be used for any purposes against your country, that is a base against your security, right? So if China is developing such type of military, that is a threat to the US security and Australia and New Zealand. The deal, which boosted China's quest, dominated crucial shipping lanes, crisscrossing the region, rattled the US and its allies. It also triggered urgent moves to counter China's growing Pacific ambition and even power vacuum fueled by apparent lack of US attention. Right? US is moving away from the global, I mean. Uh, Global politics, especially during the period of Donald Trump, when it said the policies of the policies against liberalization and especially focusing on ultranationalism, right? One type of ultranationalism focusing on nation, not in the global affairs. So, by the lack of attention, China has developed such type of ties with the Pacific. But China is undertaking multi-nation to push the 10 Pacific nation to endorse game-changing agreement called as Common Development Vision. China is also trying for game-changing agreement called as Common Developed Vision. This is China with the 10 Pacific nations. According to the draft agreement, China wanting to work with traditional and non-traditional security, and expand the law enforcement cooperation with these countries. Traditional security means traditional weapons. Non-traditional security means cyber warfare, right? Um, Regarding cyber security, all these things, and expand law enforcement cooperation with all these countries. Law enforcement cooperators means cooperation. Cooperation means by, for example, signing extradition treaty, or um, um, criminal sharing of criminals. If somebody is done a crime and went and take a safe haven in another countries, so cooperation in case of or information transfer, um, all these things can be developed by the China with those countries. China's diplomatic visit to Solomon Island, Samoa, Fiji, Tonga, Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea, and hold a virtual meeting with the Cook Island, new Federated States of Micronesia. By the two ends, the deal ran around warning of the Pacific states becoming a part of Beijing orbit. It is becoming so. It one type of it is called as Cold War 2.0. We can call it is Cold War 2.0. The similar group is getting developed, right? The intention became more even clearly recently when China was trying to arrange a virtual meeting with the leaders of the 10 Pacific Island states. The sideline of the high level Pacific Islands Forum gathering in the Fiji in mid 2022. China and the US are among the 21 PIF dialogue partners, but this year's regional forum has decided not to engage with dialogue partners in person during the Fiji meet. Right? What is the so China is aggressively pushing virtual meetings with the Pacific nations of Pacific nation to develop various bases to help military base or to control strategically those regions because China want to develop hegemony in the sea routes, especially in Indian Ocean and also in Pacific Ocean because 90 because 75% of the world trade is passing through these regions. So it is anybody who control the sea will be the anybody who has power regarding Indian Ocean will be the next global leader. What is being done by the US and its allies to counter China? Before launching PVP, US and partners started Indo-Pacific Economic Framework (IPC, IPEF), especially by the Quad countries. That is, and a trade boosting play in the region of 13 nations, that is Australia, Brunei, India, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, New Zealand, Philippines, Singapore, South Korea, Thailand, Fiji, Vietnam as partners. So it has taken them as partners in case of economic trade. Away from the Pacific, G7 announced plan Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment (PGIA) to rival China's Belt and Road Initiative by promising rent 600 billion to fund development. Right. The Pacific region is strategically important. In 2019 strategy report, the US Department of Defense called it Indo-Pacific as the single most consequential region in the America's future. Right? It's the most important statement. The US Department of Defense called Indo-Pacific as the single most consequential region in the American future. According to the report, spanning a vast stretch in the globe from the west coast United States to western shores of India, region is home to the world's most populous state, China, most populous democracy, India, largest Muslim majority state, Indonesia, includes over half of the Earth population. So, as huge amount of population reside in these areas, it's a huge market. So, USA has to develop its relationship with Indo-Pacific. Among the 10 largest standing armies in the world, 7 reside in the Indo-Pacific. 6 countries in the region possess nuclear weapons. So this region is very powerful and it is emerging. It is having a sound growth more than 5%, or in case of India it is 7 to 8%. So having such a growth, it is dynamic growth. It's a huge destination for investment for the global economic partners. So it is going to rise more and more in the present future. So 9 of the world 10 busiest seaports in the region. Right? 9 of the world 10 busiest seaports in the region, and 60% of global maritime trade transits through Asia. Roughly one third of global shipping passes through the China Sea alone. The USA has long maintained balance of power in the region, and with the hub and spoke system where America is the hub and allies are the spokes, whose security is guaranteed by USA military power, which is unparalleled power. China analytics have belief trying to make own version of the same system, even as insists the sole aim of US policy of having overwhelming influence in the region to contain Beijing's rise. So one of the biggest region of USA objective of USA to counter China. That's why India is the most important pivot state. Right? That's why India is the ideal swing state against China. That's why get India and USA relationship getting developed. India's relationship in Quad countries is also getting developed, right? To counter the rise of China and the aggressive China, because it is aggressive state, it is not obeying the international laws. There are various incidents in which uh, China there is various incidents in which China is we can say for violate the international laws in case of arbitration, international arbitration in South China Sea, and also in case of, for example, violation of territorial integrity of India by BRI road initiative. So in these cases, we can consider China as a very aggressive state, and it's not a law-abiding state. It's not a responsive state because it is run by a authoritarian regime. It is not a democracy. We cannot trust a democracy dictatorship, right? They are always a threat to global peace. So the lecture end here, and like this video, yes, you may write this question, that is regarding parliament to ensure accountability. To what extent in your view parliament is able to ensure accountability of executive in India? It's a very important question, right? It is a special relationship between parliament, it is relationship between the legislature and the executive, right? The two branches of the government which are in case of parliamentary form of government, these are very closely associated, right? So mention about the ministries, control of the ministries, the motions, various motion committees by which they make the ministries accountable. Right? Right. This question. Okay. So the lectures end here. Thank you.